Hello, everyone. It's Julia from the Paper and Ink Boutique. Hello. I'm testing a new setup tonight, so I hope it works. I have a new overhead webcam, so let's hope it works. Let me know if you can hear me. I'm hoping it's working well. I just did a test with Nancy a few minutes ago, and everything seemed to be working. So let's keep our fingers crossed. Hello. Yes, lots of people joining. Thank you so much. Yeah, it has been a couple of weeks since I did one of these. I didn't do one last weekend because it was a long weekend. Wasn't sure if I was going to do one tonight because we just finished up our workshops with Antonis, but I had an idea. So I thought, let me get something together and look at, here we are. I know I just scheduled this like 2 hours ago. So thank you so much for joining me. So what I'm going to do, I am going to flip over to my overhead cameras. So give me just one moment. There we go. Oh, look at that. I hope that looks as good on your screen as it does on mine. Okay, new webcam seems to be working. Look at how bright and gorgeous that is. I know, I'm so excited. Okay, just going to shift this just a smidge. Actually, do you know what I can do? Let's not do that. Still getting used to the new system. Hang on, people. It's all good. Oh, look at me. Look at me zooming in and out. Okay, let's zoom out just a little bit. I'll zoom back in later. Okay, fantastic. Woo! Ho-ho! I love it when technology works. Okay. So if this is your first time joining, this is Monday Night Live. My name is Julia, and I am from the Paper and Ink Boutique here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I like doing Monday Night Lives here from my craft room. And right now I'm doing a series called Techniques on Tags. Now, maybe you're looking at this and you're like, wow, that's a giant tag. That looks like a lot bigger than what she did before. Well, you would be correct, because these are the tags I have been working on. This is the Dina Wakley mixed media tags, and we have been out of stock of these for such a long time. They came in last week, so I grabbed a bag. Let me just grab it here. You can buy these at the store. They're a bag of 50, and 50 tags for $19.95. And these are the size 10. I love these. So I grabbed these. They're back in stock. I'm so excited. Not saying I won't go back to this size, because I will, but when these Dina Wakley ones came back, I had to do something. So here we are. So this is what I'm going to be creating on camera tonight. Now, for those of you who have been following me for a while, I'm trying to remember how long ago I did this. I'm thinking it was probably about 18 months ago. I did a video. It wasn't on YouTube, but it might be on YouTube now, but it was called Eroded Metal. And I did it with copper paint and rust paint. And so it was called Eroded Metal. So this is that same technique, using the same technique, but not using a metallic paint. So it's not really eroded metal. I am calling it erosion. Just because it's the same technique. So I will show you how to create this. And it is like, just look at the details in that. Isn't that gorgeous? Okay, so the background is that eroded or erosion technique. Now, everything else that you see, I'm going to be using, and I'm sorry if this is out of stock now. This demo should have happened a couple of weeks ago, but it didn't. But this is the Sunflower release from Pink Fresh. I am going to try and get it back in stock. So there is a washi tape. And this is what the washi tape looks like when you put it on a piece of white paper. So that's what it looks like. Now it does have some gold detailing in there. There is some gold detailing. So this is the washi. There is a 6-piece layering stencil set, which is here. And that is how I created this. And I'll talk about this a little bit more in a little bit once we create our background. So I created this with the stencil and the stamp. So there is a coordinating stamp as well as a coordinating die. Now the die, let me turn it around the right way. This is one die. Everything is connected. You want to leave them connected. You actually can't take these apart. It is one piece, but the reason why it is because it will completely coordinate with my stenciled image. So I can take this and die cut out my stenciled image. And I'll do that when we're ready to put our tag together. But not only that, but the die coordinates with the washi tape as well. Right? I mean, it's just amazing. So you can buy the washi, you can buy the die, and you can die cut that washi to your heart's content. Now I'm trying to remember how much washi is on a roll. I don't have the packaging anymore. Quite a bit. I think you can cut this out like 15 times if I remember correctly. So this is the washi, die cut coordinates with that. This is the stencil, and I will go through what colors I used and how you use a layering stencil. Same die set coordinates with that. Hi, Annabella, how are you? But I also, once I stenciled, I did stamp. And it is one stamp, so it does coordinate with your stenciled image as well. So Pink Fresh has this wonderful system of products that work really, really well together. So I'm going to set those aside right now because right now we are going to work on our background. We're going to work on our background. So let me bring this in. So this background here, that is what we're going to create first. Okay, so like I said, I am working on a Dina Wakley size 10 mixed media tag. That's what I'm working on. So it is a little bit bigger. So my first layer, let me bring my paints in. I'm using some Paper Artsy paints. My first layer is going to be 2 colors of paint, butter, and key lime. Now, hang on. I'm just going to zoom in my overhead camera just so you've got a better close-up view. Hang on. Let me just zoom in a bit. There we go. Just going to move this. Oh, thank you very much, Annabella. That's very kind of you to say. Well, if you ever find yourself in the Calgary area, make sure you come in and say hi to us. 1 minute. I think I'm zoomed in a little bit too far. Okay, perfect. Let's leave it there. Okay, so my first layer is going to be 2 colors of paint, key lime and butter. These are both from Paper Artsy. Butter is very yellow, key lime yellow, but with a tinge of green. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to squeeze out a little bit of butter there. I'm going to, my key lime's almost empty. I'm going to have to replace that. Squeeze out some of the key lime. And now I'm going to take a brush, just a regular old brush, and I'm just going to tip that a little bit just because I'm left-handed. I'm going to pick up a little bit of the butter, and I am going to work across my tag kind of diagonally for no other reason than just because I want to. Okay, so I'm going to go, and I'm just going to stop when that paint runs out. I'm going to pick up some of the key lime. I'm going to go on there, and same thing, just gonna kind of go and run until that paint runs out. And I'm going to keep going back and forth, and I'm going to make sure that I cover that entire tag. The reason why I'm using 2 colors is just to get some interest on it, just so it's not one solid color on there. So just quickly doing this. You know me, I like a nice quick background. So this is a nice, really fast, really quick. I'm going to make sure that there's no white showing. Sometimes around that little reinforcement at the top of the tag, there's some white showing, so I'm going to cover that up. Okay. There we go. I'm just going to go. I'm going to use up all this paint. Just going to keep going over top. Just need to scroll down. Okay, I can see your comments. So if you did want to ask a question or make a comment, I can see those. And I can see all the comments from Facebook and from YouTube. You have to be watching over on YouTube. Okay, that is looking good. I'm going to take this brush. I'm just going to set it aside. So I'm just going to hold that up before I can dry it so you can see that it is, I'm right by a very bright window. So hopefully you can see that there's some of the yellow, it kind of goes into a bit of green, but it's not solid. It's just a mix of the two colors, and they're very close in color, so they're not that different. Now I'm going to dry this really well. Excuse me. I just noticed when I turn my tag, there's just a little bit of white here. Probably can't see that on camera, so I'm just going to go in and just make sure that all that white is covered up. So this is important that I'm making sure to cover everything up because I'm going to be using some water. And if any of that paper is exposed, if I add water to it, that part is going to get really soaking wet and it will soak back to the backside of my tag. So I just want to make sure that I've got a real good coating of paint on there. So I'm just going to go in, just going to quickly add a second layer just to make sure everything is covered. Isn't that a nice yellow? It's probably one of my favorite yellows that Paper Artsy has, and it's called Butter, which I also happen to be a fan of butter. So maybe that's why I like it. I don't know. Okay, so there we are. I've just added a quick second layer. Going to make sure this is really good and dry. Okay, my tag is dry now. Actually, it feels a little sticky in the middle. One more second. Perfect. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring in, this is the stamp set from the Sunflower collection from Pink Fresh. So I'm going to bring that in. I'm going to peel it off its backing. Let me just set these aside. Let me just bring in the original. So let me show you here. See in the background, you can see some stamping. See that? That is what I'm going to do right now. There it is. You can see it really well there. Yeah, you can see stamping. That's what I'm going to do now. Now, what does this do? It just adds a little bit of visual interest, just another layer on that background. So I'm going to take some Gina K Amalgam ink. Any archival ink will work. Remember I said we're going to be adding water, so it's really important when you choose your ink that it is a permanent ink. Because if I was to use a distress ink, or if I was to use a distress oxide or anything water-based, as soon as I spray my water on my tag, it's going to wash away. So I'm using Gina K ink. Now, you may have noticed I'm not inking up my entire stamp. This is a large stamp. And I'm not using a block, I'm using my hands. So I'm just going to lay that on there. And I don't really need perfect stamping. I don't want perfect stamping because I want this background to look aged and worn. So I don't need it to look perfect. Okay, so I did that corner. Let's come down here and do this corner. Good. Let's do some second generation stamping. Let's just add a little bit in there. Perfect. The reason why I'm using this image from the stamp is because it's the largest. The rest of these are quite small. So I'm just using this one. And then if I need to fill in some spots, I'll go back in with some of the smaller images. Okay, so let's do this. And let's do that. Perfect. Okay, great. And I'm good. Now what I'm going to do before I put this back in the package is I am going to wipe off that ink. And because I've also been holding it in my hand, I'm going to give the back a wipe with a baby wipe, just to wipe off the oils from my fingers. Okay, now that's going to go back onto the storage paper there. I'm just going to wipe up that ink before it dries. Perfect. So there's my stamped background. Okay, you can see not perfect. Some areas are darker, some are lighter. That's great. This is exactly what I wanted it to look like. Now I'm going to take my heat tool and I'm going to dry this archival ink or amalgamate. Okay, there we go. My ink is dry. Now it's time to do my next layer. So what are we going to do? Let me bring my tag back in. Now we're going to add the blue color. So if you see, there's yellow showing through. It kind of looks like it was wiped away or worn away with time. That's the erosion technique that we're going for, and I'm going to show you how to achieve that. You do need to use acrylic paint. Doesn't really matter what acrylic paint, but I have chosen this blue color of fresco finish paint from Paper Artsy, and this is an opaque paint. So what I am going to do first, let me grab a brush. I'm going to use this brush, I think, because it's a nice large brush. I'm going to take my blue paint. It's important to get this all ready before you start applying the paint. So I'm going to get paint, maybe a little bit more. I'm going to get a nice large brush because I'm going to paint this. I'm going to paint that on there. And now I am going to need water. This is going to be the barrier between this layer and the blue paint. That is how I am going to create the look of erosions. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my water bottle. I'm going to spray fairly generously. I'm not going to cover the entire thing. So I'm going to kind of work kind of in like a snake fashion, like an S across my tag. Some I'm going to spray close, some I'm going to spray a little bit further away. So let's just start spraying. Perfect. So if I hold this up to the camera, maybe you can see where it is wet. It's not soaking wet. Some areas are just blotches. Some are like bigger areas of pooling water. It's exactly what I want. I'm going to take my brush now, going to pick up that blue paint, and now I am going to paint it across my tag. I'm going to kind of go and kind of like a random, okay, there we go. Wonderful. So now I have got very wet blue paint sitting on top of that yellow paint and stamping. Now you're going to want a heat tool. When you take your heat tool to it, we're not trying to dry all the blue paint. We're just trying to dry it in areas, just a little bit. We want some areas dry and other areas we want to stay wet. So I'm going to turn this on. I'm actually going to lift this up so I can see where it's dry and see where it's still wet. Okay, so you can see that I maybe dried it for like 10, 12 seconds. That's all I wanted to do. Now I'm going to go in. This is a baby wipe. You can use a paper towel. I just find it easier with a baby wipe. And now what I'm doing is I'm going in, and wherever that paint is still wet, that is what I'm going to wipe away. So I probably could have dried it a little bit more down there, but you can kind of see what I achieved. Yeah, see, I could have dried it a little more down there, but no worries. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dry what I have, and then I'm going to repeat that process just for the bottom part of my tag. Okay, so give me a minute to just dry this. Okay, so I love this part of the tag. I just need to fix this bottom part because I didn't quite dry it enough. So I'm going to get a little bit more blue paint. Okay, I'm going to take my water bottle again, and I don't need much water. Okay, I'm just going to spray it a little bit. I'm going to take my big brush, pick up that paint, and I'm just going to go back in and just kind of fill that in. Perfect. Take my heat tool, dry it a little bit. Okay, so I was tipping it. I can see where it's still wet. I can see where it's dry. Now I'm going to go in with the baby wipe and just wipe back where it was wet. There we go. So you can see that is kind of that erosion technique I was telling you about. Now I could go in with another color. You can keep building layers up. I personally like this. I just like doing the base layer, the stamping, and then the layer of paint over top. Now I could, if I wanted to, I could come in and I could do more stamping. I could come in and stamp more flowers, and then that would add just another layer of the stamping. So you can do that. And I have seen some people do a second layer stamping and then another color, and it looks great. But I'm going to stop here because I like this. So there's my tag. So you can see the stamping. You can see some of the stamping is exposed. You can see it here. You can see some of it is under the blue. So it's just really cool. It's just a cool technique. And I love that. Okay, so I'm going to dry this just really good before I move on to my next step. Perfect. There we go. My tag is dry. Let me just get rid of that. Now, before let me just grab here we are. I like adding ink to the edges of my tag. So I'm actually going to take, this is Walnut Stain Distress Ink. I don't know why that did that. Here we go. I'm going to go in and I'm just going to add some of that walnut stain just to the edge of my tag. Now when I re-ink my brush, I like starting at the corners because I like the corners to be really dark, and then I'll start working up the edges and kind of let that paint just get lighter. So you can see it's really dark, and then it just kind of fades out in the middle. I don't like it to be all the same darkness, but for some reason I just like the darks to be nice and, or I like the corners to be nice and dark. Okay. Start at this corner. Working my way down. And now let's go across the top of that tag. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay. So there we go. There's my tag. Now that brown, that is distress ink. So I do want to make sure that's dry. And one other thing I like to do, let me bring back my walnut stain. I am going to smush that on my work surface there. I'm going to spray it with a bit of water. And let me pick up a brush. Here we go. Going to pick up some of that ink. And I'm just going to add some splatters on my tag. Fabulous. There we go. So this tag is now complete. This layer is complete. Now I can start working on, looks like an old world map. Yes, I guess I can see that now, Julie. Yeah, thanks for putting that out. That's really cool. So that's actually really cool. So if I had like a globe stamp or like an earth stamp where it shows, you stamping it with doing this technique, and yes, you would get an old world map look to it. Oh, I might have to try that. Okay, so this tag is now complete. Now I can start working on my focal points. So I'm just going to set that tag aside for just a minute. I am just going to quickly wipe this up. I'll have to wash it really good later with my scrubby soap. I'm just going to wipe that ink off right now, and I'm going to move this out of the way. Okay, so remember I was talking about, I'm just going to move my platinum in here. Let me just zoom out so you can see what I am doing. Let's just zoom out just a smidge. There we go. Okay, so here's my platinum. There we go. Now, remember I was saying that there is a washi. So this is the washi tape. And all I've done is put it on white cardstock. That's all I've done. This is my stencil one. But let me go through, and I'm just going to die cut these out, and then we'll look at the stenciling. Oops. I suppose I needed something other than that. Okay. Now, this is, just move that over. I don't have the extended plates for my platinum yet. So what I have to do, I'm going to put my base, my cutting mat, my die. Let me get the coordinating die here. coordinating die. We'll line it up with that. Now, I love the best ever craft tape, or the yellow tape, if that's what you call it, this here. But I do find that it will sometimes tear when I'm die cutting. So I'm actually using the pixie tape now for my die cutting. It sticks like a Post-it note, but it does secure when you put it through your die cut machine. So I do prefer this one for die cutting. So I'm just going to stick that in a couple of spots. So remember, this is the washi tape. This is the washi that coordinates with the stencil and stamp. Okay, so I'm going to put that on there. I'm going to take my top plate. So you can see it's not going to cut here, but I'm going to go through and then I'm going to put it in and I'm going to cut the other portion. Put that through. Now I'm going to take this. I'm going to shimmy that down to cover it back up. Now, if you have the extended plates, of course, you don't need to do this, but I don't have the extended plates here at home. So, and now I'm going to go back through and die cut that portion. Okay, so I can take this die off and you can see how easily that peeled up because of that, the pink pixie tape. And then look how beautifully those die cut out. So this is the washi tape. This is the washi tape on the white cardstock. So that is the washi and it just die cuts beautifully. I love it. So all of those pieces, there we go. Okay, so that's the die cut, or that's the washi tape on cardstock die cut out with the die. I'm just going to set those aside just for right now. Now, this is one I created using the stencil. Now, if you're not familiar with layering stencils, let me just give you a quick how-to on how to use the layering stencils. Here we go. And just give me a minute. I thought I had a piece of cardstock cut, and I don't. Give me one moment. I'm still here. I am just looking for my trimmer that I just had. Oh my goodness, I totally need Heather's organizational thing this week because I am all over the place. Okay, here we are. Right on the opposite side of where I needed it. Okay, so give me a second. I'm just going to cut this. This is a 12 by 12 piece of Vicky Bouton foundation paper. Just going to cut 4 inches off there. Okay, the stencils. Now, some layering stencils can be 2 pieces. They could be 3, 4, 5. This one is 6. I think I actually have a 7-piece layering stencil from Pink Fresh, but this one is 6. And up in the top corner, it actually gives you the numbers 1 through 6. And I usually take like a distress crayon and we'll rub it because it's etched in there. We'll rub my distress crayon over it and then rub away the excess, and then you can see the numbers. Now, when you get these stencils 1 and 2, which are here, these are your leaves. Stencils 1 and 2 are the leaves. Now, I looked at that and I'm like, I don't think I want to stencil the leaves first. So I put those near the back. I'm like, I'm going to do those later. This one, excuse me for my dirty stencils, I forgot to wipe them up later. This one is this right here. These little, those things. So I'm like, I'm going to do those last. So I put him right at the very back. So just because they're numbered 1 through 6, you don't need to do them that way. You just, use them the way that you think they should be used. And then I took this one. That is the solid flower. So I thought, oh, that seems like a good one. The next layer of the flower, that looks like that'd be great for number 2. And then the center of the flower. And so I made that one 3. So I actually put them in the order I want to use them. And I'm going to set them here beside me. So what I am going to do first is I am going to put my paper on there. And then it does have guidelines right up here under the word Stencil 2. Don't know if you can see that. I should generally use the corner of the stencil, but you can use this. Especially those work if you're doing a slimline card and you want them centered on your slimline. That works really well. Now I'm going to take the yellow tape because I find this one works really well for holding my stencils in place. The pink tape, not so much, doesn't have enough grippy power to it. So I'm just going to hold that. And now I am going to turn this way. Because I'm left-handed, I just find it easier to stencil, especially these long ones, this way. The colors I'm going to use for the center of my sunflowers, Squeeze Lemonade, Boop, and Wild Honey. And my ink pads have seen stuff. I've had these a long time. Squeeze Lemonade and that one. Now, let me zoom back in a little bit. There we go. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to take a brush. This is a blender brush. And I'm just going to go in and blend my colors through the stencil. Hey, Lori, how are you? Well, I'm going to tell you, Lori, I slept really good last night because I was pretty tired. So I did sleep really good last night. Okay. Just coloring in that first layer of my sunflowers. Now I am going to go in and I'm just going to do a second layer. I just want it to be a little bit, I just want the color to be a little bit more intense. So I'm going through and I'm doing a second layer of the ink. Okay, now before I remove that stencil, I'm just going to take a piece of clean paper towel and I'm just going to wipe away some of that excess ink. I'll still need to wipe my stencils and clean them up after, but I'm just going to wipe off the majority of that ink. I'm going to leave that tape where it is and peel off that stencil. And now that stencil is going to go to the back of my pile. Let's go with stencil number 2. And again, I'm going to line it up. Oh, sorry, my head's in the way. I'm going to line it up at this corner. Line it up along with the edge and hold that down with my tape. I'm using the same blender brush. So this one is Wild Honey, and I'm going to come in, and my stencil is not lined up the way I want it. So just give me a moment. I know Pink Fresh, they don't line up perfectly. They're supposed to have a little bit of overlap, but I try and get it as close as possible. There we go. Okay, so Wild Honey now. Go over my stencil with that. And if you're wondering what stencil brushes I'm using, these are the Catherine Pooler. I'm using the Catherine Pooler brushes. Oops, almost picked up the wrong color. Just going over just to make that color just a little bit more intense. Great. So I'm going to put my wild honey and my squeezed lemonade away. Those are done. I'm going to take that clean piece of paper towel and just wipe away that excess ink. Perfect. Ooh, look at that. Ooh, that's lovely. So that is just 2 layers. That's 2 layers of that stencil. Okay, number 3. This one is the center of our sunflowers. Let me line that one up. It's going in with my piece of tape. Make sure that's lined up. Now the center, I'm going to use my walnut stain. There we go. Okay, now this one I am just going to do the 1 layer of ink. Normally I would go in and do 2, but there is going to be some stamping over top of that. So there will be black ink in there. So I don't want it too dark. I want you to be able to see that inking. So let me take this off. Oops, I forgot to wipe that. I'm just going to do that really quick right now. There we go. That one goes to the bottom of the pile. Now we have reached our 4th stencil, which is named Stencil 1. This is the one that I didn't want to do at the beginning because this is the leaves. So I'm going to lay that down. Get that where I want it. Secure that down with some yellow tape. Now the 2 colors I'm going to use, I'm just going to move this down so you can see my inks. There we go. The 2 greens I'm going to use are Bundled Sage and Peeled Paint. Bundled Sage and Peeled Paint. And here's my green brush. Bundled Sage is very subtle, very soft, which I really like. Okay. Okay, adding that ink. So this is layer 1 for your leaves or foliage. Layer 2 will add in some of the detail. Yeah, lining up this many stencils and getting them all perfectly lined up, not easy. And I did do a few duds before I did this. So I did kind of learn, and I find each layering stencil is a little bit different, right? But a lot of it for us is just using them over and over, and you get to learn the little quirks of your stencils and how to line them up. But I did take a class with Pink Fresh, and their stencils are not meant to line up absolutely perfectly. They are meant to be a little bit offset, a little bit whimsical. That's just the way they're meant to be. And I think that is just so the consumer knows that it does not have to be lined up perfectly to get a really great result. Okay, I've got 1 more leaf. Now, I could go over this again and make that green a little bit more intense, but I like this nice light green color. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put that away, and now I'm going to grab my paper towel, give this stencil a quick wipe off. Okay, so coming along. We've got 2 more stencils to go. There we go. I'm going to do this one. That might help, Janetta. Yeah, they do have the guides on them, which that's what they're meant for. But you know, rules schmules. Um, I'm an eyeballer type crafter, but I suppose if you wanted them to be absolutely pristine and perfect, I've also seen people use their stamping platforms, and then use your magnets to also do that, which is another great way to do that. So there are different ways to do that. Okay, next, peel paint. So this is going to add in a darker layer of the leaves. On some of the leaves, you're going to see some more detail come out. So let's just start doing that one. It took me a little while to find 2 greens that I liked together with the sunflower. I did try many different combinations before I found one that I really liked. This one I like. And I also had to work because there was stamping. Sometimes you get these stencils where you don't necessarily need the stamp because the stencils have a lot of detail in them. I do have several sets of the Pink Fresh stencils, and I don't own the stamp because I don't need it. There is enough detail in the stencils where I do not need the coordinating stamp. This one, when I first stenciled it, I probably could have got away without the stamping, but I stamped it and I definitely like the detail better after I did the stamping. Okay, almost done. Perfect. So that's peeled paint done. I'm going to put that aside. Now I'm going to just grab my paper towel, just wipe away as much of that excess ink as I can. And now I will move on to the last stencil. And this one adds the little berries or buds or whatever you want to call them. Here we go. There we go. Now on the washi, let me come up. Let me show you this. On the washi, this detail is purple. I don't like the purple myself, so I'm actually using Rusty Hinge for mine. And again, they're sunflowers, but you don't have to use traditional sunflower colors. You could make these whimsical, magical sunflowers and do them any color you want. It's like, am I using the right brush? It feels like I'm not using the right brush. Okay, so I'll add in these details. That is a really good point, Jennifer, and I have done that in classes. So what Jennifer is saying, and I'm just going to spotlight this one because I like this idea. So Jennifer is suggesting stamp it in a light gray first. And Honeybee has a no line, it's called a no line ink pad. And you could stamp it first in that, and that would also help you line up your stencils. Absolutely correct. And that is a great idea and a great tip. Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, so I'm going to take that one off. So here is my stenciling. Now you can see this is fairly detailed. So I could dry this, I could die cut this out, and I could use it exactly as is. Now let me bring this one in because this is the one that is stamped. So you can see that there's definitely a lot more detail in the one that is stamped. I use the exact same colors, the exact same technique that I just did. So you can see the difference. So this one is a lot softer, a lot more subtle. This one with the black ink definitely has a lot more boldness to it. So those are the two that you can see there. So again, I could totally use this one. But when I stamp it, I just like the detail a little bit more. Yeah, it just, I don't know, it just looks so much better. Like the detail on the flowers. Yeah, I just like it. Yeah, it's just so nice. Okay, so there you go. This is the finished stenciling. So what I would do now is I would dry this really well. I would put it in my stamp platform and I would stamp this really well. So in the interest of time, we are just going to use this one that I did earlier. So let me bring back in my platinum. And we're just going to die cut this really quick. There we go. There's my base. Dropping my top plate. Going to put my, there we go. Put my image on there. Line up my coordinating die. There we go. And I did know I did this. You can see I ran off the edge there when I was doing my stenciling. I have to say I was rushing a bit when I did this one earlier, but it's okay. Okay, top plate. Going to run this through, and then I'm going to shift my stencil, or sorry, shift up my image, and then we will die cut the other side. Okay, got to put this through. Yes, it does define the leaves a little bit better. You're right. Okay, so I'm just going to move this up. Put that top plate back on. And I'll just run it back through the other way now. And make sure all of those images are die cut. Perfect. Let me put that aside. I'm going to bring in my original tag. Oops. Left a few there. Let's pop this off so you can see how easily that die comes off with that pink, with the pink tape. That is that pink pixie tape. There we go. And here are all my images. Wonderful. Now, on my original one, I'm going to pull this up here. I did, in some areas, I don't even know if you can really see it. In some areas, I did go over it with some crackle paste. It's hard to see on camera. I can't really get it there. I did cover some of it with crackle paste, and I inked over it with the walnut stain. It might be a little bit hard to see there. I did not do it on this one because I was afraid it wasn't going to be dry in time by the time I wanted to go die cut it. But you could certainly put a crackle paste on it if you want, because we are doing kind of an erosion technique. Just give me a moment. Just going to zoom in just a smidge more. There we go. Boy, that camera's really good. Okay, so I am going to use this brush. I am going to come in with walnut stain. Let me find it. Is that zoomed in too far? That seems like it's really far. Maybe I shouldn't do it that close. just going to take all my die cut pieces off to the side here. Don't like it that close. Let's take it out just a smidge more. Now, I could put more ink on my brush. Could do that. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to add too much brown to these pieces, but I am just going to come in because they've got these white edges. It seems a little bit too clean. So I am going to take this brush and I'm going to just come in over the entire image and just age it a bit. So if I pull up this one beside it, you see this one's a little bit darker. It's very subtle, and I know you're probably looking at it like, I can't see the difference. But it does make a difference getting rid of those white areas. It's just giving them just a tinge of brown. So I'm just going to go over. I have to clean that off. Oh my goodness, all those little pieces of paper. I'm going to pick up just a little bit of ink. But before I apply it to my die cut, I'm just going to wipe off a little bit. Okay, so that's done. That's done. Let's do the leaves. Get that pink tape off of there. There we go, a little bit more. Do all the little pieces and then I'll do that big piece. Oops, that's a little much. I forgot to wipe it off. We'll just tuck that piece in behind. Oops. There we go. Okay, and one more, and this is our big focal piece. Pick up that ink. Let's rub a little bit of it off and just come in and kind of just darken up these pieces. Let's get rid of that bright white. And I just noted this is where my dye ran off the side of my paper. So I'm just going to just get rid of that and ink up that edge again. Perfect. There we go. Love it. So let me take these pieces. Let's bring back in this tag. Let's bring back this tag. There we go. And my sentiment, which is here. This was one of my failed tags doing this technique that I did earlier today. But I kept it because I thought, oh, it'd be good to do a coordinating sentiment on top of it. So even though it was a fail, I'm still using it. I just didn't like how it turned out. So I'm just going to tear around that sentiment. And this sentiment is from this exact same stamp set, the sunflower one from Pink Fresh. And I'm going to go and just ink up those white edges. Okay, which you can see I didn't ink up the white edges there. I don't know why I didn't. Probably forgot. Okay, so I'm going to take my focal image, going to put it right there in the middle. Now I'm just going to try and work on composition a little bit here. I'm going to tuck that in. I am going to pop this one up on some pop dots. I'm not going to take it all the way to the edge because I need to be able to tuck stuff underneath. So I'm going to put that there. I'm going to put a couple of these on the back of my sentiment. tuck that in behind there. So it'll be tucked and on top. So there's my focal with my my sentiment. Now all these other pieces I am going to use. I'm going to grab out my art glitter glue. I didn't prime this before. And I'm not going to squeeze it on camera because that's when it'll go all over the place. All right, I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on the back. And I'm just going to start adding these pieces. Now on this one, you can see I added pieces in the corner. So I'm probably going to do that again. This one, I did cut off the edge of that one. And this one I left. I wasn't sure what I liked. I'm probably going to end up cutting it off though. But it's just really cool. I love Pink Fresh. I love how they do these layering and coordinating. It's just amazing. And for those of us who love stencils, I mean, hello, I love these layering stencils. What can I say? It just makes it so easy to just achieve some really fantastic looks. Hey, Jennifer. I'm just going to stick this down here. There we go. So I'm not going to cut these off yet. I am going to let them dry first. I'm just going to come, just give me a moment. Just going to zoom out just a smidge more. There we go. So there is my finished take that I created on the live tonight. Here's the one that I created a little bit earlier today. So yeah, it's amazing. Now I just noticed, I'm going to hold this one up. This you can see the crackle on this one. Now when I inked over it, because I inked over it exactly the same, it really brought out that crackle. So don't be afraid to put crackle on these things too. So there we go. That is Monday Night Live for May the 30th. And I can't believe that May is almost done and that June happens next week. Can't believe it. So there we go. So that is my faux erosion technique. If you're going to do it, try it out. It's so much fun. Post your results either in our inspiration group. Oh, look, I missed one. You can post your creations in our inspiration group or write in the comments. I'm actually going to put that one maybe right there. There we go. Ta-da! So yeah, if you try this technique, make sure you share with us either in the inspiration group or post them in the comments here because I would love to see them, especially if you're using different color combinations. Use different colors. Try it, experiment. Blue and yellow look amazing together, but try different ones. Like yellow and purple would look really fantastic, right? Or I find yellow as a base layer really soothing. I find it really easy on the eyes and really easy to create. But yeah, try and experiment with different color combinations with this technique, and you might be surprised at the results. So I'm going to come back. Let me, hi, here I am. I'm so glad that went well, that we didn't have any tech gremlins tonight, and I'm glad the new camera is working. I'm so excited. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you had fun. And like I said, try these techniques, share your results with us in our inspiration group. And if you want to find this video again, and you're watching on Facebook, I just want to let you know that it's a lot easier to find these videos over on our YouTube channel. That's right. We have a YouTube channel and I have a playlist that's called Monday Night Live, and you will find all of them on there. So you can go follow us on YouTube and you can find all of my Monday Night Lives there. Have a great evening, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful night and a great crafty week. Bye.